Hello and welcome to Rajya Sabha Television. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Frank Rausen Pereira. Vice President M Venkaiah Naidu on Friday said that India is rendering yeoman service in developing countries by providing access to life-saving medicines at affordable prices. Addressing the 70th edition of the Indian Pharmaceutical Congress, the Vice President said rural health programs, life-saving drugs and preventive vaccines should also receive attention from policymakers and pharma companies alike. He said speedy introduction of generic drugs into the market should remain in focus. The Vice President expressed happiness that the pharma sector is outperforming most other sectors in achieving consistently high growth. The pharmaceutical industry is deliberating on various issues related to generic drugs and medical devices at the event in Noida from December 21st to 23rd. IPC 2018 will see 125 speakers and organisers expect around 6,000 delegates this year from all the sections of the Pharma fraternity from India as well as abroad. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will analyse the Pharma Vision 2030. Joining me on the program today are Professor Roop Khar, Principal, BS Anangpuriya Institute of Pharmacy; B.R. Sikri, Chairman, 70th Indian Pharmaceutical Congress; R.K. Srivastava, former Director General, Health Services, Government of India; and M.C. Mishra, former Director, AIMS. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on this edition of The Big Picture. Mr. Srivastava, I'd like to start the program with you. Let's first try and understand and let's try and put into perspective what is the state of the pharma industry in the country today.
The status of pharma industry as on today will be called as relatively robust industry. It has shown consistent growth. Its export has also shown growth, and even during the period when there were slowdown, it has maintained its tempo. The largest part of the pharma industry, for which we can claim that we are definitely having an upper edge, is the generic drug industry. Generic drug industry fits into the overall policy dictate which has been given by the industry, by the Ministry of Pharmaceutical long back, that we have to provide a sustainable growth of the industry so that the drugs are available at affordable price and the export market keeps on growing so that we become a global leader. If we just look at this industry, in order to achieve this particular vision of the pharmaceutical ministry, there had to be a focus on development of HR, particularly the pharmacists, as well as those who are involved in the research and development. There has to be a development of industry as such, which is sustainable in nature and with the help of international cooperation as well. There has to be a promotion of public-private partnership in this sector so that more and more incentive can be provided, and there has to be some type of a response mechanism, what you have just now said, the Honorable Vice President has said, to provide affordable medicine of right quality for our rural population. With this are added vaccines and the medical device and innovation. So approximately 14 to 15% is the growth rate, approximately about 20% is the generic market, and approximately I think about device sector which is gradually getting organized, and the innovation sector which is also gradually getting organized. I don't remember what would be the exact figure, but they are on a continuous growth pattern. So at this juncture, when the Pharma Vision 2030 is being announced by all those stakeholders who are there in the business of pharmaceutical industry, starting from their institute, their pharmacists, their teachers, their hospital bed druggers and their regulator, I think it will be a robust type of document which will take care of the government vision as well as the factual situation of the industry. And as such, as a conscious person dealing with this industry, I am definitely interested to look at it.
All right, absolutely. Let me go across now to Mr. Sikri. You know, Mr. Sikri, talking about Pharma Vision 2030, tell us more about it.
Yeah, I'm really happy that Mr. Srivastava's statement is absolutely correct. Basically, this Congress is a Kumbh Ka Mela for us, where the deliberation, the scientific discussion, regulators, industry, stakeholders, students, academia. Basically, Honorable Vice President of India today spoke about affordability. Yes, it is the objective of not only the industry, even country as a whole. We have to ensure, while we are giving the affordable medicine, we have to also ensure it should be efficacious and quality product. Number one. Number two, we have divided this Congress into three segments. First, we are talking about the vision to 2030. It means industry wants to visualize, deliberate, discuss with the government, with the regulators, with the stakeholders, what to do in coming 10 to 12 years. Second is we are talking about the Indian pharmaceutical industry. This industry is a life science industry. They have always been considering the stake and the health of the common masses. Not only within India, we are a proud country that we are able to meet the requirement of almost entire world. Out of 195 countries, 100 countries or 180 countries are being fed by India, and that too with a 20% of international generic market is being covered by us. Through this Congress, we want to deliberate not only pharma, we want to deliberate because regulatory changes are coming drastically.
Right.
International standards are increasing. So we have to sit with the academia so that the curriculum of the students is also upgraded to the expectation of the international standard. So there is going to be a lot of deliberation on this. We have got more than 6,000 delegates all over the country. 125 speakers have come from overseas as well as within India, and there is maximum number of attendance this time from regulatory authorities also. So it's a pride moment for all of us. Students are going to be benefited. We have kept some special feature this time. First time so many numbers of delegates are there. First time Vice President of India has inaugurated. First time a person of the status of Mr. Dilip Sanghavi, MD of Sun Pharma, was the president of this organization. First time I got a chance to represent as a chairman of the local organizing committee meeting. So we all are going to deliberate and discuss many issues. We have to keep in mind this is a life science industry. We have to keep in mind the health of the common man. We have to keep in mind the status of the country, the reputation of the country. So we have to have the name, we have to have the fame.
All right. Let me go across now to Professor Kar. You know, Professor, as far as 2030 is concerned, what is it that the industry would like to achieve by 2030?
Well, very nice. Good afternoon to everybody. I think Dr. Srivastava has given precisely very good discussion points he has sort of raised, and similarly Mr. Sikri has also given us what is exactly going on this IPCA platform, which is very, very vital to understand as to how we can be one of the global leaders in pharma industry. What I think, most important is, pharma industry has different domains, it's related to API, it is related to medical devices, it is related to formulations, it is related to pharmaceutical equipments. There are different departments where we have not to be sort of dependent on different countries. There is one very vital and important thing which we need to understand. It was raised in today's meeting also, which was attended by the Honorable Vice President and along with more than 50 CEOs of different companies. There were two important things which I need to tell and which everybody should know, that as far as the API manufacture is concerned, we are fully dependent on China at the moment. I think this is something very important, and the government needs to understand and realize and take cognizance as to how we can promote our industry to manufacture API. You can understand it is a very, very important situation. If we want to become global leaders, it's important that we should also gradually be able to improve the situation with respect to API manufacturing in our country. And secondly, already said by previous speakers, vaccines, a big opportunity for becoming global leaders. We have done wonders. Some of our companies have done. I just now was sharing to some of the very important companies, Bharat Biotech and many other companies, their CEOs were talking about their achievements, very, very small, people, how they could rise in last 20 to 25 years to the extent of delivering so much from 5 crores to 500 crores to 5,000 crores. There is potential. I want to tell this on this platform. We have a great potential. We have seen the robustness of this pharma industry, and this is the next sunrise industry of our country. If we want to improve our economy, if we want to bolster it, and if we want to be leaders as far as the pharma industry is concerned, we should support those gaps, those areas where we need hand-holding from the government, where we need support from also the regulatory authorities. Some certain things are there which is a matter of great discussion and elaborate, sort of discussion, but we need to take care of these two things so that our industry as a whole can go ahead and move ahead in all the areas, so that one thing does not depend on the other thing. If the APIs are not there, the manufacturer will also suffer.
All right. So let me take the points that you're making to the other guests as well. Dr. Mishra,
that spirit.
we got a little technical there talking about API. So first, let's try and put into perspective what API is. That is active pharmaceutical ingredient is what it is, if I'm not mistaken. Tell us more about it. And also, if we are talking about Vision 2030, we are looking at, being a global leader as far as this industry is concerned. What needs to be done in the short term? What should our long-term goals be?
Very aptly put forward by you, as I think the representative from the pharma industry itself, he mentioned that most of the raw material is imported from China. We have to improve that we need to have. Reason for this is that it is less expensive to import from China as compared to India, and other reasons they might be aware of that. So that is one aspect which we need to quickly fix, that why can't we have raw material also here, so that the prices etc. can be kept down. The other issue with there is no doubt what Professor Srivastav said, absolutely, the industry is mature, it's robust, but for generic medicines which have already been discovered, or the molecules have already been described, and they have been patented by others, and when the patent is over, we can manufacture those medications. Now the bigger challenge for us, and again 2030 we are talking, it's right there. It's not that we are talking of 2050 or 60. So I don't think it's too much of a time, but now if India is calling itself as a leader in pharma industry, then we have to do something that we come out with new molecules which we also use, and the others can also use that from our research inputs. We haven't seen huge investment in terms of research in India in discovering new molecules. For example, antibiotics, we have reached a dead end at the antibiotics, and so far in last 70 years we haven't come out with one antibiotic from our pharma industry. Similarly, other drugs. So we are very good at manufacturing generic medication, keeping the cost down, that's very good. But now the time has come, if we want to call ourselves leaders, then we have to show that yes, we are leaders in all aspects, not only in manufacturing generic medicine and giving to everyone in India as well as in Africa or developed countries as well, reverse innovation. So
just to put it crudely, so that everyone can understand, we just don't need MBBSs anymore, we need specialization just as doctors.
Yes, that's true. Research funding into pharma industry has to come from the pharma industry itself, like in US it comes, and there are multinationals, there are our indigenous homegrown manufacturers, good manufacturers now. So I think they must focus on lot of research, bring up with new molecules, and I'm sure they must be doing that, and we'll see in next 12 years or a decade what the vision has been put forward. The other aspect which I think none of the pharma representative focused, the Vice President also mentioned that the pharma industry has to now come of age. It has come of age in allopathic systems of medicines and manufacturing, but it hasn't done anything with our ancient systems of medicine, standardizing those medications and also helping that basically medicines to come and standardized so that the people can use it, and instead of that few are benefiting out of it, larger population can benefit out of, like Ayurvedic medicines, particularly. Unani I am not so sure, but Ayurvedic there is lot of scope because there is lot of
pharmaceuticals,
other pharmaceuticals. So I think that is where the pharma industry also has to grasp, and President didn't mince any words, Vice President didn't mince anything, and he did mention that we must focus on that, and that will increase the accessibility and affordability, which remains an issue today. That because I can see on the other side, I worked at AIIMS, I was in public sector, we were getting everything, taxpayer money was pumped into the AIIMS. Now I see the other side. The accessibility and affordability is a huge issue with our vast population.
Absolutely, very well put, Dr. Mishra. I'm going to, okay, Professor, you wanted to say something, I'm going to come to you, but before that I'm just going to ask all my guests to be brief because you spent quite a bit of time in our opening segment itself. Professor, go ahead. Professor Kar.
Well, I think it has been very well summed up. We should also involve, the work which you were saying, Dr. Srivastava said about phytopharmaceuticals and about developing drugs from plants. I think this is again a long journey, and it's not that we have not done nothing. There are certain small grey areas where our country has also tried its best to develop and use the heritage which we have in our country. But I think there needs to be a very formal and a very organized approach, a very accountable approach to what we are doing, because problem here in our country is everybody is doing everything, and there needs to be an agenda. We should know one research is being replicated at 10 places, at 20 places. I evaluate so many PhD theses, and sometimes topics are also same. I think we need to have a policy on it, what are the areas, which are the disease areas in our country, which are the phytopharmaceuticals, which are the herbal pharmaceuticals which can be developed, and accordingly the research also, some scientists would come out and they will be able to develop and standardize those formulations in form of a combined mixture of phytopharmaceuticals or a single phytopharmaceuticals wherever necessary. Similarly, other areas have been already said.
Let me get in the others as well. Professor, like I said, due to paucity of time, I'll have to get in the others as well. Dr. Srivastava, we spoke about research, we spoke about innovation. Dr. Mishra stressed on the fact that how we need to concentrate on research and innovation. Whose prerogative should it be? Should it be the government's prerogative, or should it be the private sector's prerogative, really, as far as research and innovation is concerned?
Actually, I look at the total industry as one, and it will be very difficult to separate out innovation, research from it. And being in the government for a long time, having seen these type of deliberations, naturally the first step which need to come before us after we ultimately complete this particular vision statement which is going to come from this is what are the priority setting for the country, and that can only come when the industry, the government, the regulator sit at one place and try to harmonize a document which has got certain type of short-term goals and certain type of long-term goals. Say for example, if there are certain type of short-term goals which talk about prioritizing priority number 1 API, okay, then government has to develop hand in hand with the industry a plan to achieve something by 2030. If there is second component which is coming as R&D, then government has to work in hand with the industry and with the regulator to go for this. And thirdly, if government finds that there is a reason for development of a new molecule, particularly in vaccine, they have to work it out.
Right.
Now, all these things will require innovative practices, all these things require a lot of research input, and all these things will require a lot of financing.
Finance, yeah.
So, a demystification of the total thing is absolutely necessary, because this industry and this government and this regulator have complicated a thing to the extent that there is nothing which is gelling
yeah.
at one point.
And you know, it's very important that everyone is on the same page and everyone, you know, intermingles with each other, and that gelling process actually happens, is what you're suggesting. Mr. Sikri, what are the biggest challenges facing the industry today?
See, the basic talk what Professor Kaur has said, I will try to catch his word. There is a saying that where there is a wisdom, there is a science, and where there is a science, there is a prosperity. Whichever country you see, whether it is US or Europe or Japan or any other country, wherever their science is given importance, those countries in pharma industries are really prospering. Dr. Khar touched the API, a very vital subject. Sometimes we take it very casually. Today morning in CEO's meet with Honorable Vice President of India, my focus was only on API and MSME, because depending single country for 80% of our API, bulk drug, basic drug, intermediate, it is a very dangerous decision on our part. We made one Dr. Katoch committee. Number of years deliberation took place. Recommendations were given. 2015 was declared as the year of API by the Government of India. Unfortunately, today we are in 2018, nothing has come out. Unless what you need is for API, you need to have a land, you need to have water, you need to have a power, you need to have a technology, you need to have a skill development, you need to have a scientific pool. India has got everything. Unfortunately, willingness is lacking. Unless government and industry sit together, our academia is really capable. They are having the capability, but they need to have the funding. Industry may not be able to have full funding. So unless government, industry and academia sit together, discuss together, deliberate together, we will not be able to resolve. And we are talking about the national security. Single product penicillin G, which is a basic intermediate for antibiotic. Suddenly tomorrow, if China doesn't give to us, what is going to be the fate of the country? So we have to be very serious. We have to ensure that API dependability is priority, and then generic version, increasing the product range, including the R&D, increasing the innovation. This process already industry is very serious, industry is mature, industry has a name, industry has a fame. Globally, we are a pharmacy of globe, we can do wonders. But we need to have really serious deliberation, and whatever we discuss, whatever reports are submitted, that has to be implemented in correct spirit.
All right. Dr. Mishra, you know, the industry is so wide, there are so many different aspects really to speak about, but unfortunately we can't cover them all. Let's try and shift focus and talk about the medical devices now. And you know, and what is the state of, you know, the medical devices in the country? Clearly it's not that great. What needs to be done so as to ensure that we have state of the art medical devices in the country?
I think I'll agree with Mr. Sikri what he said at the end, that we have potential but we are not realizing it. That is one. He gave example of penicillin G. It's very important. Not very many people will be aware that it's a very least expensive antibiotic, least toxic antibiotic. We don't get it today. When we prescribe, the patients don't get it because some of the manufacturers, or I don't know who manufactures, they are not manufacturing, but the profit margin is less. Other problem, he said that most of the raw material comes from China, from penicillin G today. We are not having the raw material in the country. It's a very serious matter because it's such a good antibiotic. There is no resistance. We can give in some infections. This works like a magic, and we are not getting it. Now, when it come back to devices, again is the same problem with the devices. There have been now some success stories in devices. The cardiac stents are being manufactured. I think there is some firm in Gujarat. They are manufacturing it, but I think it is the same issue with the devices also, that quality, cost and then mass production. I think that is where the challenge lies for us. For example, even instruments like surgical instruments, people will come to us that you don't buy our instruments, we are manufacturing in India, but they have to give the quality. You cannot force us to buy something for where we need for patient, which is a live patient we are operating, that we use a artery forceps which is indigenously made and it doesn't catch the bleeder. and it has happened. So I think quality also needs to be seen, and that is where I think device sector is struggling, standardizing the quality.
Right.
And once we get that, there is no problem. We are all willing to help and use. There is nothing there, but they have to give that kind of a product, which is at par. And what I say, which is good for us, should be good for anybody else on the earth. It's not that India, we have a different product, for US we have a different product, for Europe we have a different product. No. I think for human being, whether poor or rich, if we are using a product, it should be the same.
All right.
Same quality.
All right. Quick closing comments from all my guests. I've got very limited time on the program, so I'm going to ask you to be very brief, just in quick one sentence closing comments, starting first with you, Dr. Srivastava. On the best way forward.
The best way forward is to demystify the total industry by a participatory, harmonizing approach with the regulator, government and the industry, and have a clear path for the coming 2030.
All right. Professor Kar, best way forward.
Well, I think that's very well said. It's very important. The time has come. We have already reached a stage where we should decide what we have to do. We should know what we are doing, and we should understand why we are doing. For that, all the three main parties, the government, the regulatory authorities and pharma industry, need to come together, and they need to clear-cut drive out agenda to have a short-term plan and a long-term plan, as said by Dr. Srivastava as well, so that we know what we are going to do for next 10 to 15 years.
Mr. Sikri.
Thank you.
Yeah, see, Dr. Khar has touched a very sensitive subject. Affordability was the twice, I think, Vice President of India mentioned today. Ayushman Bharat, which Government of India under the leadership of Prime Minister was recently announced, suddenly covering from 10 crore family, 50 crore individual. With that, the demand of the product is really going to go high. With that, there is going to be economy of scale. The viability and affordability is going to be more important now. When we produce more product, we are going to be more economical, we are going to be more affordable. I think Ayushman Bharat is a very great slogan given by the Honorable Prime Minister. If we seriously look into that, we can do really wonders. We can go further affordable price, and we can really reduce the increase the production and reduce the prices.
All right. Dr. Mishra, close the show for us.
I would very much like the industry to come out with few molecules, at least 1, 2 or 3, I am not saying 100, at least in next 10 years, which are our own generated molecules.
Yeah, indigenous.
Molecules in the antibiotic or any other antihypertensive drug, or for diabetes, for the, anything. I would like to see that happening in next decade or so.
All right. On that note, then we'll call it a wrap on this edition of The Big Picture. Thank you to all my guests for joining me on the program and putting things into perspective for us. That's it from me. See you again next time.